Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Enlightened Conversations, where we invite our hosts and guests to share their views on the world, work, and their personal lives in an enlightened way. This season, we're also looking forward to engaging more with our audience, hearing your enlightened views, and answering questions and topics you would like us to weigh in on. Today's episode is hosted by Michelle Lightworker. Hey everyone, and welcome to Enlightened Conversations 2023. This is Michelle Lightworker, and I'm excited to bring you our first ever episode of Enlightened Conversations for the new year. I have a wonderful close friend and familiar colleague joining me today, spanning over, I think it's back in 2004, we go back to at least, Shirley. I've got Shirley Avis joining me.
Nearly.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
It's fantastic. I'm excited this episode because we're going to be discussing the magic of menopause, which I haven't really had an opportunity to talk much about my journey, and I know that Shirley is amazing insofar that she's actually specializing in helping women to transition during that phase of their life, amongst other things. I know you have a myriad of talents, Shirley. So I'll formally introduce you. Shirley Avis is a wellness warrior for women in transition. I love that, wellness warrior. Love it. She is passionate about empowering women around the world to embrace the potent power of menopause so they can thrive through the transition and enjoy all the pleasures that life on the other side has to offer. Welcome, Shirley.
Thank you, Michelle. Wonderful to be here. I'm very excited.
I'm getting tingles because there's a lot that Shirley and I have covered over the path of our 20 years that we've known each other, and there's so much depth to what you're doing. You've had training in so many different things. You've done your advanced diploma of counselling with Sophia College. You had your graduate certificate of artistic therapies. You've done your Bachelor of Social Work. You've covered life coaching. Is so much that you've done. I guess because we haven't spoken for a little while, I'm excited to figure out what's happened for you in moving across to this this area specialization.
Yes, I have done so much. I'm turning 60 this year, which is a bit of a mind trick, because up until the 1st of January, I was turning 60 next year, but now it's like, I'm 60 this year, and there's a real kind of subtle shift in that. And it's like, I don't know what a 60-year-old is meant to feel like, but I don't feel like 60. Yeah, so we were blessed to meet when our children were very little. Our children are similar, same age, and through that beautiful Rudolf Steiner journey together, which kind of started me on my journey of holistic counselling with Sophia College, and I was already running Love Yourself, Heal Your Life workshops by Louise Hay, which were incredible. But the reason I got into counselling was I'd run the workshops and it would open up wounds, and I didn't feel I had the skills to kind of, balm those wounds as people left. So I thought, I need to get some counselling skills. And then when I went and heard Patricia Sherwood speak, I just got goosebumps. It's like, right, this is what I need to do now. And one thing leads to another, and clearly it's my life purpose. I feel fulfilled when I'm being of service and helping others, having healed many of my own wounds from my own childhood. You can't do this work without walking the talk.
Definitely.
So just coming back to your question, it's like counselling, which I love and I'm still passionate about, but there was this underlying, if people aren't prioritising their health, like physical, mental, emotional and spiritual, you can do all the counselling until the cows come home, but nothing's going to really sustain it. So I did the health coaching course, and I just became really passionate about women's health and especially women over 50 now.
And it's interesting how things do come together, don't they, insofar as how, I felt like I fell into medical intuition when I was on Soul TV, because it just all kind of lit up when I was talking to a live audience, and I could feel things. And it's like we can't separate once we get into this healing journey of the wounds healing, and that emotional, it's like that biological social connection just kicks in somewhere, and it's all part of it. It's hard to separate. It's really hard to separate one thing from the other, and they just all kind of converge. I think the more knowledge we have on when you can identify an imprint or a feeling that needs to, and it's healed, then you can kind of see how the physical is affecting the body more. Would you say that's true to form?
100%, that there's not, and I think that's what happens when people go to the doctor. It's like, oh, it's my physical body. I'll just go to the doctor and I'll get the pill or I'll get the whatever and that'll fix me. But there's, I think what you're saying is that whatever the symptom is doesn't start in the physical. It starts in the emotional, the etheric. So if we only address the physical, it's just like putting a Band-Aid on. We're not addressing the cause, and it's going to continue to manifest.
Yeah. And so that's exciting that you got some clarity on moving into this area. And was it sort of partially because you're at that age now where you've gone through it yourself, known kind of, and probably a bit like me, your friends and people around you at similar ages. And, I'm a little bit behind you. I'm 52, but I remember when I was, we met in 2003. It was like maybe 2007, and I was 37, and I remember I was starting to get the perimenopausal symptoms.
Right. So you were quite young.
Yeah. And so I've had a bit of a long journey with it, but I always found my symptoms of all of those things, they were amplified by stress, and they were amplified by just if I wasn't taking care of my physical health as much. It might have even been that, you go on a holiday and, you just indulge or whatever. And then I always found, like, for me, the worst symptoms were like physical pain, like in my breasts and stuff like that. I just really found that really, challenging.
So Michelle, can I ask you, are you postmenopausal now?
Since 2019, I've had more of the gaps between, and this most recent one is the longest I've ever had, so it could well be. It was June last year, so I'm at the 6-7 month mark now. It may well be. I'm actually crossing my fingers. Good. But up to that, it was more like 100 days or 3 months worth, and then it was very, very mild, and it wasn't even like it made an appearance. So it was, and then I went and saw the doctor, and then they said, we did a blood test, and they said you've got very low estrogen and slightly more progesterone. And so I went through a period of time in 2021 where I had a long, like a never-ending bleed
period
for about 4 months. And so that's when I went to the doctor, and I did actually, get more on top of my health and stuff like that as well. But I figured it was due to a lot of things. My mum passed away in June, and that's when it happened. So I was, bleeding for 4 months, but very mild, but just nonstop. And so for me, it was about me and grief and containment of my emotions, and, doing what I needed to do from putting myself first for my health. And I got on top of that. And then ever since then, it's been a very extremely interesting change. Like I've found,
and I love that
changed.
And I love that you put yourself first. And I think that's a really common theme, that when we we go through menopause, people say, there's this, oh, you're just so moody, or like I think I Googled moody today. It's like people say, oh, like it's a bad thing to have mood swings. It's like we didn't have mood swings before we became menopausal. It's like we've always had mood swings.
Yeah.
I think what happens when we hit menopause is we just don't put up with the bullshit, Michelle. Yeah. It's like clearly, I think it highlights the gaps. So if there's gaps in the relationship, if you're in a relationship or in a family environment, usually it's a time when there's teenage children. So it's usually, you might be more in a superior position in your career. You might have aging parents. Like there's a lot going on that we've managed up until then to kind of keep it all together and, be everything for everyone. And it's like the hormones start changing and decreasing. It's like, I don't want to be everything for everyone. It's like, no. And so, we might get a bit, mood swings, but it's not like, I think it needs to be okay, needs to be talked about, and we just don't put up with the bullshit, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And if we embrace that and see it as something, an opportunity to heal the cracks in the relationship, or to really have those conversations about what's not working, what you want to be different, what you want to change.
Oh, I love that. And that did happen to me. Mum came up because she was in really ill health, and she's in Sydney, and I wanted to be close to her so that I could be available. And she came up in 2018 for respite at one of our facilities up here, and we're looking around for a place for her to be long term, so that that was comfortable, and just, to help her make that transition. And I remember, like, when she went back down to Sydney and decided to stay there because she was surrounded more with Greek community. And I had to respect her, like, what I would consider end-of-life choices, because she was almost on dialysis at that point. And I kind of had probably like a little bit of a mini breakdown, like emotionally, because it's like out of my control. I can't do it all. It's too much to manage from afar, but I have to. It's my job. I'm the only kid, left, and it was kind of like that sort of. I had to have really strong boundaries. Like she'd made her choice, but then I had to make my choice. Yeah. And it's interesting because even like once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'm still having like dreams of, it's the last few days and I've got so much to do for her. Dreams. There's still guilt. There's still guilt there, and I'm working through it, and I'm having conversations with her actually in the here and now as well, because these dreams aren't finishing. I thought they'd finished. So I know that part of my journey is to let go of the guilt over putting myself first, and I think that's what we fear. And that's probably why we avoid making those choices, because we don't want to be haunted with the fallout. But the reality is, I'm glad I made those choices, because it was COVID hit, and can you imagine if I had made those choices and made sure she had a good phone and made sure we had all the things set up, what it would have been like for those last 3 years. So, there was things that came of it that were liberating for her during COVID, and thank God. But then it was also, when it comes to processing my own grief around all of it, I think it had a lot to do with what you're talking about, letting go of that. Look, I've just got to make these choices, and that's all
Put
I
yourself
can do.
first.
That's what I.
And isn't it interesting you talk about the guilt around doing that, because we haven't, as women, we weren't taught. I was born in 1963, and I know I certainly wasn't taught to put myself first, or that it was even okay to put myself first, or to ask for what I want, or even to want something, oh my God. And so, now in our 50s, and it's really difficult to make that shift. And so many of my clients really struggle with with that because I feel so guilty. And
Mm.
so that is a process to work through that guilt, to get to a point of believing and knowing that actually it's the most selfless thing I can do, to put
Yeah.
myself first and be a little bit selfish around self-care, because
Yeah.
who's going to benefit from me being
Yeah.
nurturing and nourishing myself? Everyone in my
Yeah.
life.
Exactly. It's so true, because I noticed that the minute I made those decisions, I noticed the ripple effect around me, my whole other family circles, friends and everything. And I noticed that they were making different choices too. And it felt like unity principle of we're all connected. When you do this for you, that's what happens. They're better off. You don't even realize it. And this is really out there, Shirley, but I'm sure you can deal with this. Okay. But when I had the last dream I had, I had this feeling that I was in a parallel universe with another version of myself. And I only got that feeling after I came out, because it was like I was observing myself in there. And I felt that if there are other versions of ourselves in parallel universes, I felt that the part of me that knows this shit had injected myself into that parallel universe and was telling myself, it's okay, it's all right. It was actually, she's gone, but she's not gone. And that was the two-phrase thing in my dream. She wasn't gone. But what I was telling myself in that dream was, she is gone. And when I came out of that dream, I was like, oh, that felt too real, almost like not to be real. And I wonder if, when we're talking about ripples, if we're healing it in this realm, is there other realms that we're injecting ourselves during that sleep time that we could be helping? I mean, I know it's really out there, right? But that was the feeling I got.
It makes sense to me, Michelle. It makes sense to me, because if a client shares something with me, such as you've just shared, then who am I to say that that's too out there or that's not correct or whatever? It's like, I'm going to, absolutely, who's to say that that's not possible and that didn't happen in that dream?
Yeah.
That healing. Absolutely. And it's the dream state where our psyche does kind of get that opportunity to try to heal what our conscious mind can't make sense of, is what I believe. And the other, just what's coming to mind when I'm hearing you tell that story, is that by you healing, though, that rupture or that relationship with your mum, it's also healing generations before you. My mum became a Mormon towards the end of her life. She would say there's many stairways to heaven. So whether you're Catholic, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, Buddha, it's just a different stairway. And I love that. Yeah. And what the Mormons do is, by us doing our healing, not only does it heal, future generations, but it heals our lineage back.
Wow. Yeah. That makes sense to me, because I also was going through some like memoirs and things like that. And I wasn't sure, like, I was taking photos of a lot of stuff, but I wasn't sure what to take photos of and what not to, because some of it was things that, are they relevant or not to the here and now, really? They were the story of something that might have been important to that person. And I got a very strong message that you're the only one who needs to see this. What's important is what you do with this for the future, like how you transform this learning for the future. And that makes sense to me, because there's a part of me also there, over responsible part, wants to keep everything and make sure everyone knows everything, to make sure everybody's healed, like there's that. But it was really definitive. No, this is for your eyes only. It's not a secret. It's just information that will benefit you, and that will help lead to others. Healing other generations. And I thought, gee, this is really important. I wonder how many sons and daughters of mothers and fathers and grandparents have had to go through stuff and go, well, what do I keep and what do I let go of? And it's just I think it's a really significant and important process to really, what is it? How is it affecting us? We can't pass on what we haven't really taken in. You know what I'm saying?
And
Yeah.
every one of those objects, if we're talking about material objects, because not only do we take on, you know, beliefs and patterns and all of that from our forebearers, but we, you know, that physical stuff, it has an energy attached to it. And if it was meaningful to our parents, or is it meaningful to me? Is it, what is, and there's there's definitely an energy. So it's something I do regularly, is declutter, and I've become a bit of a minimalist, which is very freeing, not only in the physical world, but also, you know, letting go of outdated limiting beliefs and patterns that were passed on by our parents unconsciously, and with good intent or with no intent, but, you know, wasn't, there was no malice. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
So to do some spring cleaning of the mind every now and then is a very good thing to do as well.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel like when I was touching the items, I was getting that message very strongly. Keep it if it brings you joy.
What's that, Maria Kondo, the decluttering specialist?
Yeah. Did she say?
That's her thing. It's like, if it doesn't bring you joy, if you don't use it, or if it doesn't bring you joy, let it go.
I love that. Good, because it was so, like, there'd be random things I'd be keeping. Like I kept a couple of like little like butterfly clips that were green, and I don't know why. They just brought me joy, and I didn't even know if my mum wore them. They could have been from some other, I don't know. But I feel like if we have done our healing and we are able to allow anything that comes up from that past and items and all those things, then I feel like we are liberating the generation that went before, because I feel like from a soul plane thing, if they're on the soul plane waiting for us to release something that we're unconscious, well, even to know something, if they're waiting around to they want us to know something and they want to be there to share that moment, if we're able to do that and we're not bound up in knots over it, and we're more stepping into joy, of course that's going to like heal our generations that came before, because we've done our bit to resolve something that they had to live through potentially in order for us to get the lesson or confirm the lesson.
Yes. And not only does it set us free, it sets them free.
Mm-hmm. 1,000,000%. Yes,
yeah.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
So, and so it's interesting where this topic has gone, because you know, these things are magical, and they often do happen when we need to be ruthless about what we keep and what we don't keep, and what we share in our space and what we don't share in our space. And often we can't get to that place until, you know, our hormones start to change and we start to feel differently about life and how much we've got left. And it brings up all those questions, right?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And it taps into, because the way I work with women is I do a 12-week program, and there's 5 pillars. And one of the pillars is making peace with your past.
Oh, cool.
So,
tell me about those.
Well, the first pillar is making peace with your plate. And so,
like what's on your plate right now, or or what we're eating.
Oh, I like that. It could be either, but it's about the relationship that we have with food, which taps into our body image clearly. So really doing some deep dive into that, and there is a nutrition component, but it's really about decluttering the diet culture, because the diet culture is so ingrained and so intrinsically has its little, tentacles in so many different ways, which so it's about undoing all of that and really enhancing our relationship with food and our body, and loving and accepting our body exactly as it is. Doesn't mean we can't desire to be fitter and stronger and healthier, but it's not about, my worth isn't determined on what dress size I am or what's on the scales. So that's the first component. And then making peace with your past. So, if we're hanging on to the guilt from the past, or there's any regret, or there's unresolved trauma, it's really difficult to kind of embrace the present and look forward and create an exciting future for ourselves.
Or even understand why we're triggered, or unconsciously, like maybe there is a lot of anger running, but it's because there's a lot of anger there, and we haven't released it, or learned how to, or tapped into it, or it's just kind of coming out sideways or something, and we're narky. Could be that we're burnt out too, because some the etheric body, when it is thinning as we're coming into menopause, and it is getting less and less juicy, it doesn't hold the astral body or the feelings as well. So there's more, we do need more self-care, right, to build our etheric up, but also the reality is it's thinned out. So those little babies that we've been holding on to start to come out, and they start to show their little heads, don't they?
That's right. And just for the audience, the etheric body is like the cushion, isn't it, between the astral and where all of those past imprints or trauma imprints, or anything that's unresolved, could be past life stuff, if you believe, if you subscribe to that, but is in the astral. So that etheric is like the cushion. And as you say, when we enter into menopause, that cushion is lessened. So it's really important to maintain health and fitness, and to keep ourselves strong, to be able to deal with what life presents, and so that we're not overwhelmed and bombarded with all this past yuck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for you and I guess you could say, before we came to menopause, we did a lot of emptying of that astral, so that we, it was like probably easier for us to manage. Like I think it might have been for us, because we'd had an opportunity to do a lot of deep diving in our time doing Sophia College training, and my God, we did a lot.
And everything else we've done.
There's a lot, and everything else.
Yeah.
So my heart goes out to people that haven't even touched it, and they're coming into this space and they feel this complete overwhelm. Because
totally, and that's why I'm kind of passionate about the work that I do, because what do? You go to the GP, say, okay, we'll put you on hormone replacement therapy. Or I was listening to a podcast this week, and I can't remember, so I'm so sorry I can't refer that reference the GP, but something like 70% of women who go to a GP with menopausal symptoms are put on antidepressants.
Wow.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Wow.
Like, seriously, it's like, it's not a fucking disease. So I'm really passionate, and it's like, just to be seen and heard, and there's a whole, process that I take people through. So to really step in and embrace that power and the magic of it, like I said, it's not a disease. And
tell me about the other three pillars.
The other three pillars are so the first is make peace with your plate, make peace with your past, learn to live fully in the present. So it's not until we kind of come to some kind of resolution about the past, or when we can think about our past, one, without having an aversion to it, or without being triggered by it. So it's a story. It happened.
It happened.
Now
it's necessary
just a story.
Yeah. And look how awesome I am. So it was a good, might look crappy, but it was a good story for for where I am now, and because you're really valuing who you are in the present.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the paradigms from the program is nothing happens to me, everything happens for me.
Oh, I love that.
So
yep.
that's a real shift in mindset when people really embrace that and go, oh, okay, and we work with that to go, you know, what was the gifts that came from that?
Yeah.
So
it's a great mindset to have. I think, and I just want to point out at this point in time, you know, because Life Loves Me was a book that Louise Hay wrote when I was launching Everyday Lightworker Bible, and I was talking about that at the Hay House World Summit. I was talking about the principles and how they aligned with her book. It was really interesting because I felt a real symbiotic relationship from afar with her, from just having gone through that whole experience. It was weird. But just let me go back to what I was about to say, which is, you know, everything happens for me is a mindset that I believe in 1,000,000%. And it helps with resilience. It helps to bounce back. It helps with staying positive. And I think it's a really big difference between that kind of positivity. I think it's authentic when you really believe that. And toxic positivity, which is more, it's okay, it's all fine, and minimizing what's happened, because we're not suggesting that whatsoever. And you can sort of think that, oh, just being positive all the time, just being positive, but that's not the reality. The reality is, hey, when things happen,
Shit
they
happens.
did hurt. Yeah. And when we have a shitty day, it's okay that we feel shitty. And it doesn't mean that we feel joy 1,000,000% of the time, but it means that we get there quicker because we have an attitude of gratitude. We have an attitude of understanding. There's a meaning, a pulse behind what's happened, not just what the pointy bit was that poked our inner bear.
Yeah.
And when we're able to reflect on that, without rejecting our inner bear, when we're able to reflect on that, we get a much better, I think, third eye view of the situation. And it's not always about us, right? I mean, it could be that that needed to happen for someone else to learn a lesson. So we're in effect supporting another person's process inadvertently by being potentially a more stable person, or a person that didn't snap someone's head off, was able to moderate our feelings at the time, but we still knew we were feeling angry. So I think there's a really big difference, isn't there, between being in the present, being positive about our past so that we can be in the present, knowing everything served us, knowing everything happened for a reason, and just trying to be positive all the time and just pretending nothing was bad.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work. That doesn't work. That's so it's just accepting it. It is what it is in the moment, but having healed the wounds from the past, so we can live fully in the moment. And I think that's really anxiety and depression, which is pretty much the new pandemic. There's definitely a pandemic of anxiety and depression. It's that anxiety is fearing the future, and depression is like not having healed the past. And I think what happens too is we put, because we made all of that stuff mean stuff about us, about other people, about the world, and we project it into the future. So we just keep living into the same kind of
story.
Thing. And
we've got our little framework of beliefs, and then because we're thinking that way, everything that happens reinforces those beliefs, instead of choosing to see it differently and not be like a prisoner to what happens to us, more like I would say when something happens to me, I'm like, oh, this is an adventure. Like, okay, well, I'm on an adventure, just like if I was traveling to Nepal or somewhere else, and I'm traveling an adventure, I'm riding a wave. So what's this adventure going to teach me? And when you have that attitude, it's not like, oh, great, this is crap is happening again to me or something. You know what I mean? It's just a different energy around
totally, 100%. Just
so I guess
really,
I have more fun.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much fun living in the moment. I'm just having the best time. And another paradigm that what you're talking about reminds me of is one of the like the paradigms from my program is our beliefs create our experience, and our experience confirms and validates our beliefs. So, and the thing is, we're operating, all of these beliefs are unconscious until we start doing the work and discovering, unpacking what do I believe to be true about love life and everything in between.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. And so pillar number 4.
Pillar number 4 is reclaim your personal power.
Mm-hmm.
So especially as women, I believe that it stems back to Adam and Eve, which is just a story. And whether you subscribe to the Bible or the stories from the Bible, I believe that we all need to kind of have a connection to something that which is greater, and whether that be God, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Jehovah, Mother Earth, Spirit. I do believe we all need to find something that we can call on when in times of need. But if you go back to the story of Adam and Eve, what did Eve do? What in the story?
The apple. She was tempted and she ate the apple. Yeah,
she ate fruit. The forbidden apple, like this beautiful food. It's food, nourishment, nurturing, desire. There was desire, but you can't have that.
Yeah.
But she did it anyway. And what happened?
She was forbidden to from the tree of knowledge, wasn't it, or something? She wasn't. They were cast out
shame and guilt, and
they realized they were naked. And
so I think, if we look at lineage wise, and that's, if you subscribe to that story, then I think that's still playing out in the whole diet culture, which is run by the patriarch. And that there's the forbidden fruit. We can't have what we want. And I want to shift that. It's like fucking bullshit. We can have what we want.
Right. And got it. And then hence back to that what empowerment truly means, which is we can have what we want, and we shouldn't feel shame for wanting.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Love that.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And so it's about giving ourselves permission to have what we want and own that, so that we can reclaim our power.
Yes. And give ourselves permission to ask for what we want.
Yes.
To be okay to want. Like,
not feel guilty and shame.
I'm sure you can relate. So many women, so many of my clients, like, I can't, who am I to have what I want? Yeah. And so to have a coach or a mentor to say, who are you not to, my darling?
Exactly.
Absolutely, you can. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, a recent thing for me, I posted on social media, I think it might have been on the first day or the second day of January, I don't know, but and I really believed it. I have everything my heart desires right now, was actually what I posted. And I actually said, and I actually have this right now. I'm not just saying this is an affirmation. I actually have everything my heart desires right now. And it's really hard for people to admit that when they have it without feeling guilty, especially with my history. But I actually do. So I'm in a really good financial position. I've got a great relationship. My health is fantastic. I'm doing what I love with the show. I don't have to work for money. It's all just a plethora of, I've got everything I really, really wanted. Like it's exciting to be able to say that, and to live in that, and if I hadn't have changed my belief system that I couldn't, like, and held on to guilt and things like that, then I wouldn't have what I would have created another story where I don't have what I would be living the other story, basically living the other belief system, like you put it. It would be my belief system that I would be living a different way.
Absolutely. And well done. I acknowledge you for what you've created and what you're now doing with your time, because it is your life purpose and your passion, and you do want to make a difference and be of service to humanity, is what I feel.
It's so like that. Like, I'm choosing to do what I do now because I believe everything I choose to do, Shirley, everything is to grow me.
Yeah.
So me reaching out to you to have a conversation on this was to grow me. It'll, like we say, if you put yourself first, it'll be of service to everybody else. But it was exciting. I really wanted to talk to you and to discuss it. And that's where it's coming from now. It's not so much because it was in the past a lot, was how can I help this person? It was like that sort of, I know I could. So that's where I was coming from. But with all the freedom I have to do whatever I want now, it's how can I continue to grow me, because that's what's best for the planet, not how do I rescue the planet? Because that's if I have to rescue the planet, I'm already feeling like it's broken, and it's not broken. It's just in that beautiful work in progress we just talked about before, where everything happens for us.
Absolutely, which kind of leads into my fifth pillar, and that is fulfill on your purpose. So
here we go. We got there organically.
There we go.
Isn't that beautiful?
We did. Yes, we did. Absolutely. Serendipity. And, you know, so many, and whatever that might be, such as yourself in making a difference at a global level and a, you know, high level, or it might be making a herb garden and fulfilling on your, that's your passion. And then, you know, there's no comparison around purpose. It's not like, it's not everybody's purpose to do what we're doing, and that's okay. 100%, that's okay. But to tap into whatever it is and allow yourself, and to be given permission to let that come forth, can be a really beautiful, profound. I always just feel so honoured and privileged to walk beside my clients on their journey and see them step into their personal power and find their purpose.
That's awesome. I love that. My passion is really purpose. When I you know, that's what I plug into, because I feel like I can have a really great evolved conversation with people when they're on their purpose. And so I really do get lit up by that. And so when I'm talking to people like yourself, and you're really into it, it feels like enlivening. And I wanted to talk to you about something when it comes to like something that recently happened for me, and I'm curious as your kind of take on it. Lately, when I've been kind of thinking about ideas of things to do that they may be, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm going to say they scare me, but I'm going to say that they would be, I think pretty expansive things to do, you know, like maybe. And I get a sense of this, like, you know how when you say, oh, I got the shivers, you know, when you have the shivers, but I get a sense of this sort of like internal shiver at the base of my spine. So I'm thinking, this feels like it could be the Kundalini, you know, awakening, which they talk about is the, you know, when your chakras start to elevate to another level for enlightenment and things like that. And I'm thinking, so when I'm thinking of doing this particular thing and I get that feeling, maybe that's a sign. This is going to grow you. You're going to be enlightened much more than what you ever have because of this. Not that I'm chasing enlightenment. I'm just connecting the dots, basically. Because part of me would go, oh, I don't know if I want to do that, you know, and then another part of me going, well, you can't argue with this feeling, right? Have you had any kind of experience with anything similar? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Sounds to me, what I'm hearing is you're really tapping into that inner knowing, that inner wisdom, and you're listening to that. You're tuning in and you're listening to that shiver, that internal shiver, and it feels good. It's like, okay, I'm heading in the right direction. Whereas I'm sure you've made choices where you've had a different feeling and it's like, oh, that doesn't feel good. Yeah. And I think this is where the wisdom comes from, because I'm sure I can speak for us both here that in our younger day, we probably had that feeling but ignored it.
Yes.
And kept going, and it didn't end so well. Yeah. But that's how we learn and develop that wisdom. And so now listening to your body and listening to that, I'm on the right track here. And it's interesting, the first pillar, which is making peace with your plate, is all about that, and tuning, because there's as many diets on the planet as there are people. I believe.
Yeah.
And it's about finding what works for you, starting to listen to that inner wisdom. And like how we do one thing is how we do everything. So if we start with our plate, what happens when I eat tomatoes? That's good. That feels good. Or what happens when I eat gluten? It's like, oh, I just feel like going having sleep. So some people, whatever, it's like listening, starting to tune in to that, the messages that our body is sending and giving us. And if we can do that with food, because so many women have blocked, numbed out that ability. We all have the capacity to do that, but it's like any other muscle. You know, I go to the gym to build my physical muscles, but we have to work on that intuitive muscle as well.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I've been a vegetarian now for the past, it was Boxing Day 2019, but that since then, and I've found that I didn't become a vegetarian so much for the animals. It was more around the menopausal diet, not wanting to have dairy and contribute to too much of the estrogen imbalances, you know, and things, you know, just stuff like that.
Balancing the blood sugar, that's really important for menopausal symptoms. Absolutely.
And then since then, I've just realized that not eating like animals, I've grown more sensitive to them. It's been a reverse thing. Some people I don't want to eat an animal, you know, that's fine. Like I honor that too, but that wasn't what it was for me. So on my journey of trying to balance my hormones and not have, I watched the Cowspiracy, I think it was one, and that was about how the milk produces so much estrogen and there's an imbalance for, especially for people later in life and things like that. And so that was kind of prompting me to do something different. And it's just interesting how it's turned around to becoming a more sensitive, like my cup, you know, friends not food, like, you know, cup. Like I started I started to do stuff like that, and I found myself doing them not for the cause. It was just because I was loving animals more. And I've had a problem with, and I'm not going to judge people for it whatsoever, but I've just had a problem with seeing animals on leads, even going for a walk. And I've just gone, I don't want them to be
I'm
caged.
exactly the same.
Are you?
Like, how did we start doing that? That's just weird.
I just can't even imagine doing it to an animal myself. Like, and I know I have, like, I've had pets, like lots of pets. Like I had a menagerie of pets with kids growing up. So, but now it's like, I just couldn't even imagine putting a dog on a lead or doing something, putting something in a cage. I just, unless it was to protect it or something. But it's funny. I think that's part of the magic of menopause for me. Like the little things that we're talking about, like these food choices and dietary choices have led to other consciousnesses that I wouldn't have even thought of happening
previously.
Yeah,
that's great. So you're really in tune with your body, Michelle. You're a very enlightened being, a conscious being, and you're very much in tune with our body, because if we listen to our body, we have all of the answers within.
I agree. And I think the thing coming through is sometimes we think about magic as being something that we sprinkle onto a situation to transform what's going on. But I actually think what we're talking about here with the magic of menopause is when we actually have tuned in to what we need to do, whether it be for our purpose or our plate or our present, whatever it is, the magic is the ripple effect. The magic is the fallout from the decisions we're making. The magic is the big reveal of the things we wouldn't have even realized we were capable of once we do those things. That's the magic. And it's not something we're sprinkling to, it's something we're receiving. It's like a gift, you know.
The quality of life. The magic is the quality of your life that you will experience when you do all of these things, make peace with your plate, peace with your past, embrace the present, and step into your personal power. 100%. Yes.
Oh, wow. I love that. Well, I've really enjoyed it so much. It's been freaking amazing.
Yeah,
so
me too.
thank you so much for sharing space and making the time to share your wisdom and your passion for this beautiful time. And it is different for everybody. And that's what I love about our conversation, because I think everybody who listens is going to go, well, gee, that's out there, but I could, who knows, their thing could be more out there, and that would be even better. Like, it's about giving ourselves permission, right? Just to go on that adventure for ourselves.
And seek support, like get support with it. So many people feel alone. They don't, they've got all these symptoms going on and they don't know what to do. So reach out, and not just through your GP. Find a like-minded, find somebody in your tribe, if that's where you're drawn to really support you through this. Absolutely.
Shirley. And you're at shirleyavis.com, is it? If I remember that right?
shirleyavis.com.
And
absolutely.
Shirley with a EY, isn't it? Shirley with
SHIRLEY,
AVIS.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Love you so
Michelle,
much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And talk soon.
We'll talk soon, and we'll see you all next time on our next episode of Enlightened Conversations. Bye for now.
Bye.